Good night, folks. Actually, it's good morning because it's just half past 12 in the morning. But I just come off Brett's stream above Paranormal. We had special guests on, and yes, we were covering a variety of topics around the paranormal. One thing that did come up about the paranormal that I wanted to cover in this video is, you know, what do you regret in the paranormal, in the line of investigating? Have you ever done anything you regretted? And my reply to that was, every single time that I go out, I always regret something that I've done. When I go home and I review my evidence, what I do is I look at it and I says, well, I could have approached it in a different kind of way. Is that being an amateur? Not really. It's actually part of learning. I can look back on previous videos and I can see a pattern of copying other people that I've been influenced by. Now I'm not as influenced by other paranormal investigators. I might pick up some good ideas here and there, but I genuinely, in general, try to do my own thing, and, I wanted to give you some examples of things that I regretted in the past. One of those was actually talking too much. A lot of paranormal investigators that I've been watching would constantly have their cameras sort of, facing out the way, and then next thing, every couple of minutes, the camera turns on them, and they're talking to the viewer every few minutes, and sometimes it's a bit too much, and they're smash the like button and all the rest of it. I don't do the smash the like button or anything like that, but I did go through a phase in the beginning where I would talk to the camera a little bit too much. Another criticism of myself is talking too much. I'm starting to grow to try and work on that, because now I'm rather than being influenced by other investigators, I'm getting more in tune with my own senses. And you may have seen in recent videos, we're not getting very far with the current situation and stuff like that. So we've been in woods, and we've been on beaches, and we've been on places with no history or anything like that. And those type of investigations to me, were great, because what it did was I went out with a camera and a couple of things in my pocket, like one or two spirit boxes or whatever. And I was able to concentrate more on the visuals and the audio. At the end of the day, you can have all the equipment in the world. A lot of people would say, a starter kit, your K2 and your PSP7, REM pod, those things, that Ghost Adventures, in the beginning, these were the things that they used. The thing is, when it comes to a thing like a K2, this is old technology. If you looking for a K2 meter, I bought this K2 meter on a ghost hunting page on eBay. see, the K2 is an EMF meter, you know, and this day and age, you've got these lights, right, with these readings, your milligauss readings, in writing here, and these colours and stuff, right? It doesn't. What these are basically used for now is basically a trigger object that you can see in the dark. You know, if you were starting out and you wanted a piece of equipment, you know, if you wanted an EMF detector, here's a little mech attack. That cost me something like £13, you know, and it's got, you know, a backlight, it's got a digital readout, it's got a temperature, and also when it gets to 5 milligauss, it will sound an alarm. So, you know, it's great in the dark, and you get a digital readout of the actual milligauss, and a way more accurate sort of thing. But, you know, if you're to go out, start an investigation and that, the first thing you need, basically, is your camera. You know, and even at that, just go out, explore the environment, learn to listen, learn to watch, and when you go home and review your evidence, go through each frame, watching, and put your headphones on and listen. You know, even if you don't have a spirit box, some people don't like spirit boxes. You know, older researchers don't like, you know, the scan radio method because they were used to getting EVPs from static noise from a single frequency on the shortwave band. You know, and using a frequency that's specific to government emergency frequency, and it's a frequency that is preserved for government emergency, so no other station is allowed to use that frequency, so no human voices should come through, you know. But you know, when I started off, I was all into the equipment because everybody else was. And, you know, I have a lot of equipment, but it is good to sort of get in tune with your own senses and that. And sometimes just going out with your camera, you know, that's what it's about. That's exactly what it's about. What does pieces of equipment do in a paranormal investigation? Basically, they're electronic trigger objects. Now, sometimes when these are set off, there is some sort of a question mark sometimes around them. Is it a spirit setting that piece of equipment up, or is it stray signals, radio signals, or whatever? Things we cannot see, there's always question marks around it. Thing about starting off an investigation with just your camera, you don't have all those other things to focus on. You know, you're listening out for the audio, you're listening out. There's a lot of investigators out there, and they non-stop talk from the beginning to the video to the end of the video. At the end of the day, you're trying to look for paranormal evidence, whether it's audio or visual. As good as these things are, that's not going to get you your visual or your audio. What they do is, sometimes they will go on and off with responses from you, you know. But at the end of the day, don't base your whole investigation on responses of equipment. If you're a paranormal investigator, you're trying to get evidence of ghosts. So the most important thing in everything to do with a paranormal investigation is audio and visuals, you know? And that's why sometimes I like to just go out with very, very little and just walk around, take in the environment, listen out, try to get as clear as possible imaging and as clear as possible audio, and go home and go through the whole lot with your headphones and watch out for visuals and stuff like that. And it's, to me, it's kind of relaxing because you're not dragging around big loads of equipment and flustering your mind with all what am I going to set up where and all the rest of it, like, you know. And in the question on the stream that I just come off about regrets, there's loads, and is it a bad thing that you have something to criticize about yourself every time you go out? Like my answer was, and it isn't, because there's always room for improvement, and every time I go out, the files go up on the computer, I review the evidence. Now, a situation may come up, and I may have approached it in a way that I thought was right at the time, and then I was think, well, if I done this instead, it might have worked better. But that is the learning process, and it actually is a good thing to do that. The habits of there's a lot of teams out there, and they're talking all the time. And I think a lot of the time, what's happening there is people are uncomfortable with silence. But you have to remember, when you're out paranormal investigating, people have EVP recorders. I have an analog one there. There's loads of different voice recorders used to pick up EVP. They ask a couple of questions and then they play it back and stuff like that. As I said in another video, I don't do that. I don't do that very often. I've done it once or twice, and I don't generally do that. The best EVPs that I've caught on an investigation was actually picked up on the camera's audio. I had an old Panasonic that I bought in a second-hand electrical store, and that's what I started out with. And that's where I got my first EVP. That's what I got my first EVP in the last couple of years of doing this. I've got EVPs before with other research that I've been doing long before this for a while, but that's your two sources of recording. You've got your camera's audio, and you've got your camera's visuals. So the camera, as far as equipment is concerned, I would consider the most important thing. But very often, and what I see now, is misusing the camera. The camera is used to focus on the person doing the video, and they're talking all the time. In the meantime, something could kick off, something could be seen, but it's not being seen because the camera is focused on the person all the time. The thing about talking too much as well is there was occasions at times where I have spoken over an EVP, and it was very, very difficult to separate them. So the less pollution on your audio, the better. After all, when you're going out paranormal investigating, you're out looking for ghosts, or you're out looking for paranormal evidence, the audio is going to get polluted if you talk too much. You know, it's. But at the end of the day, it's about learning all the time, and the best way to learning is getting out there. Review your evidence and then review how could you improve a certain situation. How can you do this in a different sort of way? You do have a lot of these investigators, and there's a routine. Spirit Box, Paratech, App, another Spirit Box, EVP, and they'll line up, right, first we're doing this, then we're doing this, then we're doing this, then we're doing this. And then having a camera just focused on, to go to this a beautiful place with lots of visuals, but the camera is focused on one section of it for most of the night, with a couple of cat balls and EMF detectors and REM pods and REM bears and all that kind of stuff, and laser grids. The equipment is good, getting responses is great, but the thing is, what about the rest of it? What about the rest of the location? And then you have people walking around some of the rest of the location, but they're playing audio in the background. They're playing a Spirit Box all the time in the background and that. Opportunities can be missed by polluting that audio too much, And yes, I've talked too much at times in previous investigations. Some of the investigations that I've done, I can cringe on them, But that is the learning process, It's all about growth, And if you're watching my videos and say, I could do that, do it. Go out and do it. Don't let lack of equipment be the stumbling block, because going out, bringing out your phone, you can get if you wanted to improve on the audio, you can get I was telling you about the microphone that I have for my video recorder. It is a microphone that's used for video recorders and can also be used for phones. That would sharpen up the audio and stuff like that. But everybody's got a phone, and if you've got a phone, that's a good start. And maybe in a way, it's a good thing that you don't bring equipment to your first investigation. Some people say don't even bring a camera. Just go to the location and watch and listen. But sometimes the watching and the listening seems to be lacking in some investigators because they're stuck in a routine. That's the great thing about Rachel that comes along with me, is she's not influenced by other teams, but she doesn't watch any other teams, But I just thought I would share that, It's good when you're reviewing your evidence to see where you can improve, because there's always room for that, But yeah, it's a field where there's no black or white. There's no fully right or wrong way of doing things. But then you have to focus and you have to focus on the intent. What are you doing? You're going out to a location, but you're looking for paranormal activity. How are you going to catch that paranormal activity? Do you know? At the end of the day, I can pick any pieces of equipment, bring it with me. I can bring different pieces of equipment the next time I'm going. But is that piece of equipment going to give me paranormal evidence? Even if they go off, you know, I'm not putting the equipment down. Getting a response on a piece of equipment is brilliant, you know, but not to solely put all your eggs in that basket. You know, oh, we had a great investigation. Our REM pod went off a couple of times. See the bigger picture. You know, you're going out to try and find paranormal activity. The camera is the one that's going to catch it. The camera and your audio. You know. Just thought I would share that. It just came, you know. We did it around that sort of thing in the stream tonight. So you know, yeah. Hope to see you in a future video. Good night.